Like if a relationship ends because between the two of you, it ends because you have irreconcilable
differences.
Right. That's fine. Right. Like if that's the reason, that's the only reason a relationship should end is because you two can't get along and you can't work it out. Boundaries that is like, that's not cool that you're talking to guys. No, it's not cool that you're talking to an ex. It's not cool that, now that he's that kind of guy, he's able to find a woman that's not going to do those. You see what I'm saying? But you have to be that kind of person. Like you have to put protection in place because people could say, "Oh, you're so you don't have any freedom. You can only eat meat and eggs. You don't have any freedom." I chose it.
Right.
No one chose it for me. I chose it. So how could you possibly say I'm not free?
Yeah.
So yeah. And the other thing I was going to say is that, when people get into a relationship, how many people think, I hope this ends?
Right.
No one ever gets in, like, why would you commit to someone? Why would you get in a relationship thinking, I hope this ends?
Right.
So relationships end. A lot of relationships, most relationships do end. But I guarantee you, if we were to take a survey and you're to look at the causes of a relationship ending, right? I guarantee you 95% of them would have an external factor, external to the relationship, as one of the primary causes for that relationship ending. I'm not saying there wasn't any kind of inner turmoil, but I'm saying of the actual nail in the coffin, the thing that caused it to finally end, that destroyed the relationship, 95% of the time, I would guess, there was some kind of, the external influence was a thing. And so if you're a smart person and you got into a relationship because you don't want it to end, why the hell? Like if a relationship ends because between the two of you, it ends because you have irreconcilable
differences.
Right. That's fine. Right. Like if that's the reason, that's the only reason a relationship should end is because you two can't get along and you can't work it out. Right. But a lot of times those relationships don't even have to end because if there's not an external influence, you will work it out and you will figure out how to work out together and to come back together but what happens is there's an external influence. And so the more that you cut that stuff out, right? Again, yeah, it might be innocent going to the bar with a couple of your girlfriends, whatever. I get it. I totally get it. Or go dancing or whatever it is, or, guys night out, we go to the bar and shoot some shit. That might seem totally innocent. But when the relationship starts to have some kind of trouble, which all relationships do, right? Do you want to be like, oh, you know what? Shit. The reason why this ended, the reason why I wasted all this time and went through all this pain was because of some external influence that could have easily been avoided with some simple boundaries. That's so stupid. That's why I think it's just, yeah, I know that probably no one's going to rob my house. Right? Like I know that it's probably not going to happen. We live in a good neighborhood. I mean, it doesn't even happen. Burglaries don't happen. But I don't leave my door unlocked.
Jinx us.
And I don't leave my door open. And I don't take all my money and leave it in the house. I put it in the bank. You know what I'm saying? Like those are small precautions against something that's not very likely to happen, but it could. So it's stupid to that's why when people don't take care, I think that they're careless. Like every person that's always like, oh, I trust my partner. I trust them 100%. Like I don't need to know where they're at or anything like that. I know that relationship is absolutely doomed. And I know that they don't love their partner because they don't love their relationship enough to protect it.
I mean, sometimes I feel like those people are also doing bad things, because they're trying to overcompensate and be like, you go do whatever you want. Like, I don't care, go ahead, do whatever you want. Like, that makes me feel like they're doing something that they don't want found out. So they're like, you go and do whatever you want. So then if you mess up, then we both have something that's bad. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And like I said, I've been coaching guys for a long time too. And I just talked to a new coaching client of mine, and it was like, and I went through his relationship history, and the past 3 girlfriends he had cheated on him. This one, he checks her phone. Like, he doesn't need to, but the fact that he's now the kind of guy that sets boundaries, that is like, that's not cool that you're talking to guys. No, it's not cool that you're talking to an ex. It's not cool that, now that he's that kind of guy, he's able to find a woman that's not going to do those. You see what I'm saying? But you have to be that kind of person. Like you have to put protection in place because that means that you actually care.
Right.
So, yeah.
But they think that it's no freedom, but they don't understand. Like I said, I think it's because they bounce up against the boundaries, but we've already did a whole episode on boundaries, so maybe they need to watch that. But because boundaries are good for every single relationship, not just your romantic relationship. So I think they just, again, they don't get it because they also don't have the intimacy and the connection, but they could have that.
Right.
And I think if they did have that, if they did deepen their relationship and they deepen their intimacy and they had more transparency with their partner, they wouldn't believe in those things anymore and they would understand where we're coming from.
Yeah. And again, just to reiterate that, what we talked about in that episode too, which, just because the argument is always, you can't hang out with your friends. Like that seems restrictive to get a woman and then tell her she can't hang out with her girlfriends. No, you can. You just have to be doing innocent things, like things that are acceptable.
Not going to the bar, or getting sloshed.
Even if you're innocent doing it doesn't, I'm saying again, and it becomes a relative thing. It's like, okay, pretty soon then it's like, oh, well, all the girls are going to the strip club, but I'm not doing anything here. Like, I'm like, it becomes dumb. So yeah, so you can hang out with your friends. Of course you can hang out with your friends, but yeah,
you want to respect the person you're with. Yeah. And they should do the same to you.
And the final thing about the whole thing, like with the book and stuff, is because I know Sophia was bringing it up too when she was reading. We have Sophia reading books every night. It complicated personally. She's reading.
We all read.
Yeah, she's reading 1984 now, but when, is a thing that, and what I told her, and which I think is true, and I think is libertarian as anything, and I think Harry missed it on this, which is that no one can obligate you. No one can. You don't owe anyone anything. You don't owe people loyalty. You don't owe people anything at all. You don't owe. Like, you don't owe your parents anything. You don't owe anything. But you don't owe society anything, right? You don't have your duty to your country. None of that stuff. That's all bullshit. But you can obligate yourself. If I shake your hand, if I make an agreement with you, if I make a vow to you, if I tell you something, if I produce a child through my own, I have created an obligation. Mm-hmm. And I must fulfill that obligation if I have created that obligation. No one else can do it for me. No one else can force me to be obligated. But I can obligate myself. And when you do, then you are indeed obligated. And it's not a restriction of your freedom in any way. A restriction of your freedom comes from an external forces or something. Like, we can restrict our own freedoms. That's fine. But it's when we do that, in that respect, we're making a choice that we freely have made. And yeah, we can freely break our obligations, but there's always a cost to them. And there's the surface level cost, which he talked about, like what will it cost you? But there's an internal cost, and that cost is an expensive cost. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing about this. Hey, you got it's not restricting your freedom. Like, you make choices with your freedom.
I mean, yeah. And again, I think people who view it that way, they should just be single, because that is a more self-centered, selfish way to view it, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But the only way you can live like that is as a single person, because when you do get into a relationship with somebody, and especially if you get married, it's about compromise. Like, it's not about you anymore. It's two people living together, cohabitating, doing life together. Like, it can't just be you doing whatever you want. Like, you have someone else to keep in mind now. And then when you have kids, you have even more people to keep in mind now. So if you only want to focus on yourself and what you doing whatever you want, stay single. Like, for real. Because then you can. Like, no one, it's all about you.
And at the point where this is whatever you want, then that's when you like that. It should be whatever you want. It's just like,
it should be the thing that you want.
It's like people could say to me, even now, right, as I'm on this, whether you agree with the diet or not, it's crazy diet, but I'm just doing it temporarily, partly just for discipline. But people could say, "Oh, you don't have any freedom. You can only eat meat and eggs. You don't have any freedom. You're
had
so
the
restricted."
Freedom to choose.
I chose it.
Right.
No one chose it for me. I chose it. So how could you possibly say I'm not free? How could you tell me I'm not free?
Right. And I'm eating not just meat and eggs. So, you're not over here forcing me to eat what you're eating.
But my point is that could I conceivably do something other than eat meat and eggs to the time that I've committed to it? Yeah, I could. I still have the freedom.
Right. You could stop right now
I've
if you
chosen
wanted to.
for an end to create a set of rules for myself that I have chosen to obligate myself and to follow.
Right.
And it's the same thing when you get in a relationship. You're doing it for an end. You know that you want this more than you want that.
Right.
So you're creating rules or you're agreeing to rules or whatever, however you want to phrase it. You still have the freedom to break them, but you're not going to.
Because you value the thing more.
So but you've created that thing, so that's not, that's what actually makes you the most free. Because, and this is why Jocko Willink said that discipline is freedom, is because when you are constantly controlled by your desires, when you're constantly controlled by your mood and how you feel, you are not free. That's when you're the least free.
Right.
When you think you have the most freedom is when you have the least amount of freedom, because you're a slave to your lust, to your desires, to your hunger, to your emotion.
Yeah.
You're a slave to all of those things. You're not free at all. But when you create discipline and you say, no, I'm limiting the set of things that I can do, of things that I can eat, of people I can sleep with, whatever it is, you create discipline. When you create discipline, you actually create freedom because you free yourself from
being controlled by those other things.
Exactly. That master that you didn't like anyway, because you were like, every single person will obey some authority. Every single person. And it can either be, you have either the master of your desires and your emotions and your, that, or you'll have the master of yourself. You can be your own master, but it requires discipline and it requires commitment. And it's the same exact thing, because it's discipline within a relationship. Like it's easy to go out and hang out with your friends at bars and do single people stuff. It's harder to say, no, we don't do that kind of stuff. And people judge you and they're like, oh, wow, he really controls you then, like, or whatever it is. Or like, oh yeah, she's got the leash on you. They throw it, both men and women throw it on either side, right? If it's a woman, they're like, oh yeah, he's just really controlling. He seems like a controlling man. I'm a little concerned for you. Or if it's on the other side, they're like, oh yeah, you're pussy whipped, huh? She's got the leash on you. She got it tight on you. You got to check in, right? Again, people do it both. That's how they slip in.